To the Batcave, chum. Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today, let's take a look at the Jazwares AEW Unrivaled Collection Matt Hardy. Now, it's no secret that I like to keep my wrestling fandom and my action figure fandom separate for some reason. I don't know. There's just so many wrestlers, so many figures, and I'm already buying so many toys. But I do like to pick and choose, especially when it comes to my favorite wrestlers, which I've realized the past few years skew into the supernatural elements. Undertaker, of course, but then Sting back in the Crow days, the WCW come down from the ceiling, everywhere. Bray Wyatt in essentially everything he has done, and then there's broken Matt Hardy. I had been out of wrestling since the early 2000s. I just kind of drifted away. You know how it goes. But it was the Broken Universe in Impact that I can't remember if I ran across it on YouTube or somebody said, you got to see this. And I watched a little of it and thought, what in the hell is this? I need more. Plus, I think this is my first Jazwares AEW review. Might as well start with Matt Hardy, right? Looking at the package, it's intricate, especially with what we're used to from other toy lines. There's all kinds of dips and angles with the tray underneath. Got the brick wall, AEW logo, random gold. Unrivaled, picture of Matt himself. On the side, same thing, AEW gold bricks. On the back, bigger picture of Matt, some of the other characters in the series. I forgot to mention that I did find this at Walmart, which is crazy in itself. Maybe they are getting better distribution out there. On the other side, same thing, except it has this little picture of Matt, number 31, series 4. I guess that's for people who put this up bookshelf style. On the bottom, legalese, warnings, don't put Matt in your mouth. Let's get this open, see what's going on here. There is a flap and stuff right here, but it's always good to go through the bottom, right? It's not a loose tray. It's actually glued to the backer board. What is going on here? Oh, well, that's good enough. That's interesting for a big brick and mortar line. There's plastic wrap around the arms to keep the paint from smudging onto the skin tone or something. And same thing underneath. It has leg covers. And maybe this is a common thing for AEW figures. I wouldn't know. Again, I haven't bought a lot of them. I'm gonna take the coat off, but we will talk about that because I want to compare that to the Mattel WWE one, but I'm already liking what I see here. Looking at the overall figure, it's definitely Matt Hardy. I love a lot of this, and I'm even okay that they exaggerated the torso and the arms a bit. This is a little bit more toyetic, I think, and that's completely okay because, hey, it's wrestlers. It is a little smooth and plain, but mostly because he doesn't have any tattoos. There is some black up here for some gloves, and it comes up the arm, but it's not actually sculpted on there. It's just black paint on the body. Seems to be that way at the fingers or knuckles, too. Not bad, because when we get to the pants, that's when it gets intricate. There's some very nice tampo work with the little red designs on black. It's hard to see when you're away from it or, you know, in the bright lights from here, but once you get up on it, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. And while they didn't sculpt the gloves, they came in and sculpted the belt buckle, the belt itself, the zipper, the seams around the zipper, or the little rivets or whatever. Same thing on the side of the pants, whatever these are, it's actually raised up. Same on the other side, coming around to the back, a little bit plain, but it's the back. Pants come down over the boot, and you would think with it being as tight as it is and as good as it looks, it would get in the way of articulation, and it does a little, but not as much as you think, especially on the tilt. It goes way in. But the big thing about wrestling figures is you have to nail the likeness. And because it's Matt Hardy, I've bought quite a few of the Mattel WWE figures, but this, I think this blows them all away. The expression, the likeness, the paints, just everything falls in place. Yes! The hair kind of floats above the shoulders and the neck, but that's because of the jacket. It adds some thickness under there, and when the jacket's on, it lays right. But even this, the way Matt's hair was frizzy a lot of the time and it stuck out, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a nice waviness and detail to there. The red streak up here on the top, on the front. There's even some gray in the beard. That's a nice little touch. I'm not usually a big fan of open mouths, but it's Matt. Broken, he was always screaming, so this works. But on top of that, check out the rows of teeth in there and the tongue and how it looks natural. Furrow to the brow, the eyes peering out with the digital printing. Oh man. Yeah, this is my favorite Matt already, and I haven't even moved him around yet. Speaking of that, the articulation seems to be, what do we got under here? Oh, I just realized there's a softness to the hair. You can see that they even have ears up under there. But there's a ball at the top of the neck with a hinge. There's a shift forward and back just because of how that joint works. Can look up. The softness of the hair gets out of the way a bit. Looks down. Not as much tilt as I usually like, but there's some. Swivel. And in the position it was when it came out of the package, there is a slight looseness to the hinge. But if I shift forward just barely, then it's tight. I don't know, it's just that one spot it was shipped in. Hinge at the shoulder goes up past 90, rotates all the way around. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow comes up, oh, all the way, touching the shoulder. Swivel at the wrist, and then hinge in and out. A dumbbell joint of some kind at the mid-torso, ball joint at the waist, does crunch forward, arcs way back, tilt. No, Matt! There you go, give it some tilt like that, some tilt the other way, rotation. Oh, well, not so much at the bottom, mostly up there. Ball coming out to the hip goes forward, back, out. Oh man, look at that, it's better than some Spider-Mans. There's swivel on the ball joint, and then there's also a swivel below that to give you extra range. But honestly, as much movement as you get at the hip, don't really need the swivel. Double knee goes up to about right there, and it's not the Sculpt running. Well, it is kinda, but it's more not enough cutout on the back of the knee. Still, that's pretty impressive. Pants do get in the way a little bit compared to, you know, open boots, but does hinge back a bit, forward, and then forward-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, there's several sets of hands. There's the pointing finger, delete, delete, then the left hand. That also comes with a matching right hand. There's also a left fist and two regular just C grip hands. Nice pop to those too, very secure. Also comes with Vanguard 1, nice sculpt of this, a lot of white. Hinge doesn't actually work to move the camera around, and neither do the propellers. I went to spin one, and they're glued in there, so they're kind of stuck in this square position. Comparing to the Mattel version that came with the Elite Matt Hardy, the Jazwares is bigger and chunkier. I can't remember if the Vanguards in the two promotions were different. I have to say, I do like the Mattel better. It's a little more realistic. The thinness works at this scale better, plus it's got rotating propellers. Then we get to this, the hologram projection of Matt that comes up out of Vanguard. Jazwares went all out on this. It's actually a hefty piece of plastic bust. The head sculpt seems to be the same as the figure, but then the torso, it has that projection look to it and his jacket sculpted on. And there's even articulation to it. I think it's just a ball compared to the hinge and ball on the figure, so it's not as much movement, but it's enough to give you some personality as Matt is giving his message through Vanguard. Compare that to the Mattel, and there's a huge difference. Don't get me wrong, there's something wacky about this, but this is amazing. And maybe that's why this Vanguard is thicker, to hold up the weight of this. You have to find the right spot to put it in there, but once you do, it's an actual pop. It's not going to fall off. Will it stand? Oh yeah, it'll stand. Then there's the jacket, looking like it fell right out of the show. It has that same tempo work to the design, red on black. Again, hard to see until you get right up on it, but very intricate. What I like more are the buckles on the front. They painted the silver very, very nicely. I really like that they have this key where you plug it in and then slide it down and it stays locked on. With the Mattel version, I think I put a different head on this body. I don't leave the jacket on because once you pop it, it's a pain in the ass to get back on. You gotta fiddle with it and try to, of course you're gonna plug right back on. Did you notice that one? For some reason, I can't get that to plug in at all. With this, you get them all lined up, get them in there, shove forward, and it's there. Slide the arms on. Hey, I said slide the arms on. It's a little harder when it's on the figure and you're pushing against the body, but you gotta make sure that they're all in there and then push forward. That one, because of the tightness, likes to pop apart, but way, way easier than Mattel. Plus he looks pretty good when he has it on. Of course it traffic cones the legs a bit, but that's also why he takes the jacket off before he wrestles. I also like that it looks pretty natural when he has it on. Down at the bottom, it kind of does things like it's in motion. Size-wise, Vanguard 1 with the hologram is about 3.5 inches tall to the top of the head, and Matt is about almost 7 inches to the top of his hair. Here he is with a couple of the Mattel Elites. I think they're both Elites. No denying, Jazwares is the best out of these three. And I feel it's the best in size and proportions too. He looks great next to the AEW Unrivaled Phoenix and Penta. And that's all the AEW figures I have. But he can also fudge into your Mattel WWE display. SKUs larger than 1/12 scale, like the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Stormtrooper or Marvel Legends Black Panther. Also larger than your Boss Fight Studio Legends of Lucha Libre Phoenix and Penta. Basically, it's wrestling figure scale. And then to just compare these again side by side, here is the Jazwares Vanguard 1 with hologram, and the Mattel Vanguard one with hologram. So at the end of the day, I think there's only really one thing I can say, right? Wonderful! This is the Matt Hardy figure I've been waiting on for a while. I had gotten some of the Mattel ones, and they just didn't do it for me. This makes me feel like I don't need another one ever again. This is my version of Matt. Don't get me wrong, back in the day, the Hardy Boys, that was my tag team for a long time, but Matt finally breaking out and becoming, well, there was Big Money Matt and several other personas, but it was the broken gimmick that really set him apart. So it's nice to have that represented in plastic form, even if it is a later version from AEW. And like I said earlier, this is my first really deep look at one of the Jazwares AEW figures, and while it could be a little bit more mobile, especially butterfly shoulders, I feel like the overall look makes up for that. I mean, they are nailing it. From what I've seen of other figures like Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, these feel like end-all be-all versions of the characters you want. If you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or just in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. And this stand is a Mafex stand. It didn't come with this set, but I had to have something to raise up Vanguard 1, right? With the heft of that chunko plastic on top and then the thickness of this itself, I had to tighten up the screws. That's actually pretty heavy. I forgot something else. It doesn't come with Skarsgård, so you have to go back and get that WWE Elite version. You gotta have the dilapidated boat, right? You gotta protect them.